Hi everybody, welcome to this is sort of the makeup hangout. I was supposed to do this last week, but it didn't quite happen, did it? It's not my fault. It was Patreon's fault. I'm gonna blame my benefactor for not doing this last week. But everything's sorted out now. So here I am with a bunch of my Patreon patrons. Hi guys, thanks for joining me. A couple people who have not been in a hangout with me before, including JJ, who has delighted me by her presence. Um, And then, there's other people like Peter and Matthew have been here a bunch of times before and whatever.
So this is a
Anyway,
makeup hangout. We're gonna make up. We're gonna
yeah,
do some
we've all had a big fight, and now we're going to make up.
Oh,
I'm so sorry, you guys, for
As you
whatever.
should be, Ethan, as you sinned.
And then we're going to put makeup on. So
Welcome all newcomers.
yes, welcome everybody. Welcome newcomers and old comers and everybody who has come in any way. That could be interpreted in different ways.
nice to meet you, beautiful people.
She says as
Likewise.
Oh, thank you.
she says as she chomps into an apple.
Okay, well, I'm about to eat a box of Oreos, so I'm trying to make myself feel
Sweet.
better.
I do the same thing. I do the same. Like, well, I know I'm gonna eat like a whole bag of jalapeno chips at some point. So let me just have an apple or an orange or something first.
Although there's definitely a nice splash of color whenever JJ gets on the screen.
Yes. And she's we didn't work this out ahead of time. I swear to God we didn't plan this, but she's actually wearing a shirt that I designed. So
Everyone go buy it, even though it's
yeah.
kind of incorrect. I noticed after I got it. It says no one 17 and under admitted. I'm pretty sure NC-17 means you have to be 17.
Yeah. Well,
It's okay, Steve. No,
that's it. Point out the mistakes on my shirt. That's fine. That'll make people wonder.
I'm sorry.
No, it's.
I love it.
I love it when people it doesn't bother me that much. I mean, it bothers me a little bit just because I have like a perfectionist
Oh no,
part
I'm
of my
sorry.
brain. But
No,
no, I'm not you. I don't care. I mean, but like if I put up a video and there's like a little editing glitch in it that I didn't notice before, and someone's like, hey, at 3 minutes and 52 seconds, and I'm like, oh. Like it's too late to fix because it has like 5,000 views. I can't just take it down and put a new one up. Like,
Well, you
Like,
could,
just
but
don't
then
say
you'd be known as that anal retentive.
yeah. Now, see, some of them are easy to fix because YouTube has an editing feature now where if it is just like something that you have to take out, like actually that's pretty easy to fix now. And I've done that a few times. But if it's something that can't be fixed by just clipping something out, then it's sort of like I did a 5 Stupid Things video. I think it's the Captain Picard one where there's 2 number 4s. Like the number 5 is I put the wrong title card on, so instead of number 5, it's just another number 4. And
Why do
I
I
was
remember
like,
that?
yeah.
It's okay, Steve. You'll be okay.
And I was just like, oh God. And it was a nerd one too. It was a Star Trek one. So now I'll never live it down. If it was about something really important, I could sort of shrug it off. But
The number 4 is a really good number, though, so it's okay to repeat it.
It's not because the number 5.
yeah, you're right. It's gonna be 4 stupid things from now on. It'll be way easier to write. I'll just leave one off. So we were talking before we went on the air about what we were going to talk about, and I have no idea. But I did see the Avengers movie, which not everybody in here has seen, so I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to have spoilers or anything. But have any of the rest of you guys seen it yet?
I saw it. I don't know if my thing is working.
Yeah, I can hear
Sweet. That's exciting.
you. So I have one other person at least.
I haven't seen the first one yet.
Oh, you're one of those.
Okay,
Let's stay
I'm
home
just like,
and
my attention
read.
span is too short for movies.
Mm.
I have to switch between like 3 YouTube videos at once, even if they're like 5 minutes long, just because of my attention span.
It is a long movie, I will say. It is. I mean, even though I really liked it, it is a long movie. It's like over 2.5 hours long, which is, I mean, kind of long for a superhero movie. And there's a lot of shit happening in it. but overall, I really liked it.
But anything involving Joss Whedon, I'll see.
That's true. And I would say, and anytime you can watch a Joss Whedon, either a show or a movie where he doesn't kill all the characters you love,
That's a miracle right there.
you can feel like you've gotten something out of it. Like, oh, at least he didn't kill every character I liked.
I am going to feel a little cheated if the Avengers gets a complete run without getting prematurely cut off.
What a right.
Good one.
What's going to happen to Robert Downey Jr. or the character Iron Man, rather?
I mean, it looks like they're starting already to kind of move him out. I mean, I think he's going to be in the Captain America movie next year, and I think is he going to be in the next Avengers movie? I think he's supposed to be in that, and then after that, I think that's it for him. Like, he's done. And I don't think there's any more like standalone Iron Man movies in the pipe. So yeah, I think there's sort of you can see that already in this movie. They're sort of gradually kind of pushing him to the side, is sort of like setting up the fact that he's not going to be doing this for very much longer. They kind of did that in Iron Man 3 too, where he was talking about how he doesn't need the suit and he doesn't need the technology, and it's just sort of set up that he's kind of becoming a little disillusioned with the whole superhero thing. So when they do write him off, it's not like a total shock. It's not like the last scene in his last movie where he comes in and he says, "Oh, by the way, I'm retired, guys. You're never gonna see me again."
Way to be cliche, Mr. Superhero.
Yeah. I will say this: the one thing I like about how they've done Iron Man. I mean, I like a lot about it. I think the Iron Man movies have been really good, but they haven't done the cliche where he quits in the middle of the movie, and then comes back, like they did in so many of the Batman movies, where he's like, he just sort of decides like an hour into the movie, oh, this is too much. I'm not going to be Batman anymore, and then like 20 minutes later, he's Batman again.
No, wait, I have to be.
Yeah, it's like, dude, who are you kidding with this? I'm not going to be Batman. Come on, we're still sitting here in the theater. Like, you haven't even gotten to half the scenes in the trailer yet. You're still Batman. So Joseph, you said you saw it. What did you think of Avengers?
I thought it was cute, but maybe not quite cute enough to be good.
Oh.
That was my impression.
Well, okay, that's interesting. What without getting too into detail, so we don't spoil it for people who haven't seen it. But is that what you expected? Like, do you sort of see the whole? Did you see the last movie is the same sort of thing? Like, just kind of a cute.
Well, so I wasn't like over the moon about the Avengers. I thought it was really well done for a superhero movie, and I wasn't expecting that, and so it was even better for that. I think that the first Avengers movie did a whole bunch of things well that kind of got copied, but then not done quite as well in this next movie.
Okay.
I think one of the things that really bothered me was that the humor felt really forced in some parts, where it felt really effortless in the first movie.
My wife said something very similar. She thought, I think she generally liked it, but she has the same criticism of the jokes felt a little too forced.
Yeah.
Like, oh, here's something funny,
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't have that problem as much, but I can see what you're talking about. I mean, a lot of it was sort of one-linery, like somebody will just sort of toss out a quip.
Well, she's always right, so.
That's true. Hey, but here's a conundrum though, JJ. If Ashley ever disagrees with you on something,
she's still right? She's right.
Wow.
She's never going to disagree with me on anything.
That's probably right. Especially if you both disagree with me.
Oh gosh.
If anybody disagrees with me on anything, she's like, well, they're right.
Or would it be like the Juggernaut versus the Blob?
Yes, exactly. It would be as Gorilla Monsoon may have said. It would be like the irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
It occurs to me that we're describing, throwing out a name like the Blob to describe two female friends is not a good idea, and I didn't realize.
Not
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Juggernaut isn't exactly flattering either. You're like a giant, unstoppable mutant.
I'm
Thanks.
pretty sure we're both like under 5 feet tall.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I mean, you'd be evenly matched. It would be an interesting fight.
The image is in my head right now.
Yeah. Damn it. Yeah, I feel like just based on what Joseph just said, like my opinion of the first Avengers movie is pretty much the same. Like I thought it was a really really great popcorn movie. Like it's not something that I would want to. It's not something that makes me grapple with like deep questions. It's not something that it's not a movie. It's not really a thinker. It's not a movie that you walk out of the theater going, "Wow, it really makes you wonder." You know, it's just a really fun movie with some moments of pathos and humanity, and but mostly it's just a really well done like adventure movie. And I thought this one was the same. Like I thought the villain was great. I thought Ultron was great. But I'm a big James Spader fan, so the Ultron could have just been James Spader, reading a Chinese menu, and I would have thought it was awesome.
Fair enough. Yeah, he sounded awesome. He was a really fun and interesting villain. I could not for the life of me buy the motivations of the character. I think that's the biggest thing that got me. For like any of the characters, I just couldn't buy what was motivating them throughout the movie.
Yeah. Why are they doing this?
Wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
Haven't you ever played D&D? The party just has to stick together, and that's essentially the motivation.
It's actually it feels like a really good analogy. It feels a little bit like, oh, I have this whole adventure planned out. Yeah, but what if I touch this over here?
Right. Everybody just what are you doing? No. Get back over here. Yeah, it's one of those like when I think about the movie after the fact, I can kind of get that. Like when you think about it after you've seen it and you're like, "Wait a minute. Okay. So why did Ultron do any of the things he did? Or why did the Avengers why did Tony Stark do that? What was and but when I'm sitting there in the theater, that doesn't really affect me. Like I'm not really thinking about the plot holes or the inconsistencies, while I'm watching the movie. And in cases like that, I usually don't deduct points in my critique. I usually think, oh well, they were good enough to sort of smudge it over, and I didn't really notice it while I was watching it. Whereas if I had been sitting there in the movie theater going, oh come on, then I would have deducted points for that. I would have thought like, oh, that doesn't. They didn't manipulate me skillfully enough. But it just depends on maybe you were sitting there watching it and you were seeing every single plot hole and you were going like, oh wait a minute, this makes no sense. But for me, I don't know if I'm just not as observant a viewer as you, or if I'm just looking at different things. But I felt.
Yeah, it succeeded in being definitely like this is really boring and I don't feel like watching it, or this is poorly done. Like it was really well done and entertaining to watch. I just couldn't buy the characters in this one, and it bothered me.
It did have some of those really great classic Joss Whedon moments of where something really really funny happens after, like within moments of something really really tragic. I'm hearing my own voice. I'm hearing an echo. Does somebody have their speakers on or something?
Not I.
Okay, it's gone now.
It's gone now, yeah.
My ghost is gone. That's good. But yeah, like something in this Avengers movie, like something really, really, dramatic, really heavy will happen, and then like the next scene is something hilarious, and it's like, oh, Joss Whedon, like this is what you do. This is what you do to me. Like there was a scene in an episode of one of my favorite episodes of Angel, where like Angel gives this big speech to the villain about how we're heroes and we're better than this, and we don't lower ourselves to your level, and we're going to do the right thing because we're heroes and it's what we do. And then one of the good guys like just straight up murders the bad guy, And Angel turns to him and goes, "What did I just say?" And that's my story about something that happened in somebody else's show. So what's everybody else been up to? I've monopolized the conversation with talk of the Avengers for so long. What, for 15 minutes? What's everybody else been up to?
Fucking with my tech.
Which is super entertaining, by the way.
I thank you.
I feel like I need to share when I came into the Hangout before we went on the air. It was just JJ and Chris in here, I think. And JJ's eating an apple, and Chris has his camera turned off, and all I hear is, oh, wait a minute, oh, yeah. And it was, I mean, we could have just done that for an hour.
It was the apple.
It was the apple. That's not even where I was going. God, you fucking pervert.
No, but that wasn't a perverted statement.
It's not even where I was going.
No, that's on you, Steve.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. No, yeah.
What is it with you and apples?
That was a perverted statement, and I said it. I'm sorry.
One thing I am kind of interested in. I know Steve's a little bit closer to this than the rest of us in the world and in the United States. Baltimore.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if anybody's seen the news. I have not seen a lot.
Oh Lord.
Anybody really know what's going on there right now?
Well, I'm just about an hour away from Baltimore, so I've got lots of friends down there. So in mostly the residential neighborhoods, it isn't so bad. It's mostly the sort of commercial areas. And the reality is, from what I've heard so far, is that it's nothing like the news is pointing it out to be. That it's not as rough and tumble and Wild West as, you know, the news is picking out all the absolute worst aspects of it, such as that woman who bitch slaps her son and whatnot. You know, you have disenfranchised people feeling the need to act out, I guess is not a very good term, but what I can use right now.
So it's not as bad as a pumpkin riot.
The officers got charged finally.
Yeah,
that's the plus.
They got charged, but they're taking this, you know, they say a good prosecutor can indict a sandwich. So the charge, there still needs to be a judge, there still needs to be a jury. They'll take this charge as if it's a huge thing. You know, yes, they needed to be charged and then go through the judicial system to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, they actually, one of the things I did hear recently, because I've been listening to most of my local coverage of it, I've been getting from the radio. I've been listening to WYPR, which is the local NPR station in Baltimore, and they reported on there was sort of like a neighborhood what they called a victory rally in West Baltimore after the officers were charged, and I thought, let's not call it a victory rally yet. I mean, nobody's been convicted yet. You know, having charged is a really important first step, but you know, I mean, nobody's been found guilty of anything or punished yet. So maybe it's not quite a victory rally. But yeah, I got the same impression that like the media, and it's not necessarily even it almost feels wrong to even blame the media for doing it, because it's just what they do. It's just a natural tendency that they just sort of focus on the salacious parts of it, and they ignore what they would consider the more boring parts of it, which is most of the protests were peaceful. I mean, there were a huge number of people who were just out in the streets just to be seen, just to make a statement, just to demonstrate, and a few of them turned violent, and the violence is what got all the attention.
Right. Well, Ferguson was the exact same way.
Yeah.
I mean, it was there were an enormous amount of people, and there I have met a few people that did do protesting there, because that's a little bit closer to, I'm in the Midwest, but there were some places where the police were shooting tear gas into coffee houses that were supposed to be safe places, and these were the peaceful protesters. A few blocks away, you could go and find people actually smashing windows, but again, it's kind of the low-hanging fruit in some ways, and I can understand it's a messy situation, but there's definitely cases where certainly, especially in the media, people who are peaceful, boring.
Yeah.
Oh, you're being a normal, upstanding citizen? Why would we want to look at you? So,
Right.
Look at that man wait for the crosswalk to turn yellow.
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, in a way, like as terrible as it sounds, and as badly as it reflects on our culture as a whole, I think that was one of the problems with the Occupy protests. I think that's one of the reasons why people lost interest in them after the first couple of months, is because they were largely peaceful. And I mean, and they still are. They still occur from time to time, but they just don't get any real attention. And they never really got a lot of cultural traction, because once we got the point, like, oh, okay, they're just, they're hanging out in parks, or they're, whatever. Like, we kind of lost interest in what they were even trying to say. Like, we've been conditioned to think that, oh, if people take to the streets and they start breaking windows and turning over cars, well, that's something we need to pay attention to. And then we also we hypocritically condemn those people for making us pay attention by saying, why do they have to do that? Look at what they're ripping up their own neighborhood. What a bunch of punks, what a bunch of thugs. But yet those are the only types of things that we seem to care about.
Actually, when you say that, it makes me think that there is a utility in having as shitty a legislature as we have in Boise, because we had an Occupy movement, and they just found a way to suspend their right to peaceably congregate on the property that they were congregating on.
Really? Wow.
Which still didn't get that much attention, but...
Yeah, well, we can't have people expressing their displeasure with the government. That's not going to help anybody.
Yeah, utility in seeing the really bad reaction.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Baltimore too is, because there were one or two nights where there was legitimately some violence in the streets, not nearly as widespread as people may have had the impression that it was, but still, I mean, it was there. It was happening, and because of that, people sort of took some, I guess, necessary, reasonable safety precautions, to sort of protect people and keep the peace, and that made things seem even worse. Like, they had that one of the most surreal moments was last week when they had the Orioles game with no crowd. They had an in competition Major League Baseball game with no one in the stands. Like, it was just the teams and a couple of people, like, from the media, and the cameras and everything there, and the game happened, but nobody was there. The stands were completely empty, and they even had, like, the regular sort of, like, it was photographed and broadcast just like a regular video, or like a regular baseball game, but when they did those sweeping crane shots of the stands where normally they would show the crowd, it was just empty seats. It was really kind of bizarre to watch.
I had heard about that. Yeah, that's been one of the first major league games in I don't know how long that no one was. It was completely closed off from the public.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was out of an abundance of caution, because I think the game that happened just that prior weekend, they ended up sheltering the crowds in place because there were protests right outside the stadium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, it's given the circumstance, it's not an unreasonable thing to have done, and Major League Baseball is in a situation where, okay, we can't just keep postponing games, like our season is only so long, but at the same time, it makes it seem like it was so much worse than it was. They're like, holy shit, they're having baseball game. They won't even let them go to the baseball game. They're so violent. It's not really how it was. It was, but it was. Watching that game, I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched about half of it, and it was really, it's you don't realize how much a part of just watching it on TV, how much a part of the game the live crowd is until there's nobody there. Like, it was eerie silence.
It's like when a sitcom switches to no studio audience.
Yeah.
Only
Although in that case, I actually like that better.
Was there ever any interview with any of the athletes where they asked about how does it feel to not hear the roar of the crowd while you're doing your thing?
That's true. Like, I didn't see anybody I didn't watch any interviews, but I'm sure that's an obvious question. I mean, you would think it would be pretty strange. I mean, everything. It's like everything was there except the crowd. They still had the announcer, like the public address guy was still announcing who was batting, and it's like, who is he even talking to? Like, there's nobody here. Like, now batting for Baltimore. Who are you talking to? Nobody's here. But
I
yeah,
have to do it, otherwise I feel dirty.
yeah. If they didn't have the public address guy, it would have been really weird. Yeah,
But then he starts making mouth noise crowd sounds over the PA.
guy is called safe on a close play at third, and he's like, the crowd goes wild. Yeah, but yeah, and well, that analogy of, like, the sitcom without the audience. I've been watching a lot of old, like, cheesy '80s sitcoms lately, and it's weird, like, to make that adjustment again, because most of the shows I watch now, like more like newer shows, are of that format where it's basically just shot like a drama, like there's no studio audience, it's done on film or whatever, and it's weird to remember that, like, 10, 15, 20 years ago, the norm was the studio sitcom where there was an audience there, or there was, like, a laugh track to make it sound like there was an audience there. And it's like, wow, why did we ever watch TV shows like this? Like, it just seems so weird now. Like one of my favorite old shows is Perfect Strangers. That is a horrible show. I mean, it's just terrible, but I have such love for it. And it was one of those shows that was shot, there was not a studio audience there most of the time, but it sounds like there was. And it's like, God, how do you even do that? Like, how do you pause for laughs that aren't there?
That's actually still what I think of sitcoms being, is the laugh track or the audience. That's just what comes to my mind when I hear the word sitcom. But I haven't really watched television in the past 15 years either, so that's I'm sort of stuck in the 80s and 90s when it comes to television.
There is something about oh crap, I've been doing stand-up comedy for just a year and a half now, but it seems like laughter is much more complicated than it might seem at first. Like, it's a group dynamic that has so many different layers, and having that cue there does have an effect. But then I hate it when I've seen several different comedy specials where they have to, like, in post bring up some of the laughter or add a little bit to it or something like that, and I can tell, and it just ruins it, even if I think the thing is funny. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think to Chris's point, this is the progression of television, which of course comes somewhat out of the whole theater idea. So, we started in theater, we had audiences, the audiences responded to what was on stage, which, as someone who does community theater, is a huge energy dynamic back and forth between the audience and the actor. And then just to have a studio audience, even though there are cameras in the room, I'm sure it helps the actor. Chris, how do you think you respond to the actors you have in your audiences?
Well, it's very difficult to tell how they were reacting, because people can find it funny all they want and not laugh just because nobody else is laughing, and nobody can be laughing because nobody else is laughing. Like, everybody in the crowd in the lynch mob is pretending to be angry just because everyone else seems to be angry. Or is this making sense? Or
it makes sense to me. It's just the idea that I think the audience was part of a necessary transition, and then that the shows that don't have an audience, it's a very different experience for the actor, and it's a different experience for us, the viewer, even though we're not there in the studio.
Oh, and also acting to few people or no people is really uncomfortable until you get used to it, and even then, it's mitigating the discomfort. Anybody notice that Steve disappeared?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our host is gone, at least for the moment. He'll probably come back.
Yeah.
We're still live, so. One thing I think I would say is all of the television and comedy I watch is on YouTube pretty much, and I, I assume maybe a few people here are familiar with the Bible Reloaded.
Mhm.
They are, for me, they're a comedy show. I mean, they're a riff type comedy show, but they are ones that one thing I think does help some of the humor come across, and Hugo and Jake have gotten better at this over the years, is when they laugh at one another, that can kind of, and of course there's no audience right there, but it does sort of seem like there's a little bit extra humor there, as if they were just sort of dry giving jokes all the time, and they didn't respond at all. To me, it wouldn't be as funny. And that just may be a subconscious thing, I don't know, but it's something I've kind of really learned to enjoy. And there's a lot of YouTube presentation like it's almost like the old radio comedy or current radio comedy, except that on YouTube you've also got visuals that can go along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just a different way of looking at entertainment and with the technology that we have.
And the laugh tracks were complicated machines, or at least the one that I saw. Somebody discovered it in I saw this on Antique Roadshow. Somebody discovered a laugh track in a old storage unit, and the expert at the place brought out the history of it, that it was really, really secretive about how it worked. And it looked like a bunch of different magnetic tape reels just strung like a loom or something, with a lot of different gears. It was really complicated.
Really, so is it like they had different buttons that they could be like, this is sort of some mild laughter, and this is some loud laughter, and then you can push them all at once, and then you get roaring laughter?
Yeah, it looked like they just like bringing up different tracks, like a mixing machine or whatever, or a drum machine or whatever, only using digital tape, or not digital tape, but magnetic tape. At least that's what I gleaned from what it looked like.
But of course, there's always a difference between spontaneous laughter of an audience and this sort of contrived laughter, or this laughter by committee that people try to do when they're doing a laugh track, or have the sign that says applause now or whatever, trying to force the issue. It's a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of my favorite stand-up comedians when he did stand-up was Steve Martin, but mainly because he completely fucked with people's expectations of what laughter should be and where is the punchline. He would just kind of keep people guessing. It's sort of, well, you can pick your own punchline, laugh whenever you want, or don't. It's all the same to me. I'm going to be up here and I'm going to be doing my ridiculous shtick, and if you laugh at me, great. And it's funny to watch, actually, if you go back and find videos of him doing his stuff from the early 70s. Some things that I think are absolutely hilarious barely got any reaction. And then things that just sort of were just an awkward little thing would get a lot, because it was like people didn't know